just being the fact that Israel is the key to prophecy. They're going to be the key to the end times, the tribulation that comes, Jacob's trouble. Everything is all about them. So it's good that we pay attention to that. And starting with that, we're going to talk about something with the third temple. So if you haven't noticed, I'm not I'm not an expert on all this stuff, but to give you an idea, if you go to the Temple Mount in Israel, the Dome of the Rock is sitting there, and then it's common belief, the majority believe, common knowledge, however you want to put it, that next to it will be the site for the third temple. That's supposedly the proper site for the third temple. So the belief is that the third temple will be next to the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount. The temple will fit according to the exact measurements, and it'll fit perfectly according to how Scripture tells us. However, the outer court of the temple will need to be left out because it would cross over into the Dome of the Rock. So when they build the temple, there's plenty of room to place it where it's at, but they will have to leave out the outer court. So the inner temple will be there, but the outer court will have to be left out because it'll cross over in the Dome of the Rock. So that's going to be kind of a give and take, I guess, so to say, of that. Well, this is where it gets interesting. So how they would do it is they would build the third temple, and then they would build a wall that separates the Dome of the Rock and the third temple. And how it would work is there will be separate gates for the Jews to enter into the third temple, and then for the Muslims to enter into the Dome of the Rock. So it's kind of just putting a partition, a wall between them, so there's no conflict of trying to maybe go through the same gate or anything like that. Well, the prophetic part of this, and this is, I guess as JD would say, chicken skin. This is pretty interesting. It gave me chills, that's for sure, when I read it. It's actually funny because I was told about this to go and look it up, and the person who told me to go and look it up said it gave them chills. And so I was going in with that mindset already, and then when I read it, it gave me chills anyways. It's just crazy how, even though I was expecting it, it did the same thing. But the prophetic part is in the measurement and the removing of the outer court, the measurements that they're going to do. So if we take a look at Revelation 11, 1 through 3, it says, "Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood, saying, 'Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court, which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. And I will give power to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles.'" Well, if I can get myself back on screen. There we go. This is, guys, they just talked about how the measurements, everything will fit perfectly in there, but they will have to leave out the outer court because it will cross over into the Dome of the Rock. Literally, word for word from Scripture, it tells us that the outer court will be left out because it has been given to the Gentiles. It will be crossed over into Gentile territory. This is the coming alive of prophecy. This is if you are watching and you are paying attention, you are literally seeing the Bible, the living, breathing Bible, come to life. And we see this all the time, but yet we have so many people, so not only people who aren't believers who ignore this stuff and they think it's all fairy tales and just some random people wrote it and all this stuff, but you're talking about Christians who are actively ignoring prophecy. I personally believe it's not even just the act of they don't want to read it, they don't want to know, but it's also a thing of I believe they have doubt. I believe that they do not believe that this prophecy that was foretold is actually going to happen, even though it is literally coming to life in front of their eyes right now. And we are seeing word for word Revelation 11:1-3 come to life. When that temple gets thrown up, that's a countdown for those two witnesses to come into play. And they've got the measurements to fit everything accordingly. Just as Scripture tells us, everything will be there except for the outer courts. Word for word, Scripture comes alive.